Morning from Snarko Global Trading in London. We're looking at the oil price today. It has been trading sideways this morning in London and overnight in Asia as well. The same, roughly trading about the 92.5 per barrel level on WTI, West Texas Intermediates. The standard crude oil quoted on NYMEX. Brent, of course, nearly always has a premium. But if you look at the further contracts out, November and December, it is still trending slightly higher. Now, the reason for this is predominantly on rising tension in the Middle East. That is over and above any global economic factors such as the China slowdown and the fiscal cliff and so forth in the US. They've been factored into the oil price for some time. It is specific, sudden catalyst movements in the Middle East that are underpinning oil prices. Firstly, looking at the recent weeks, we've seen an increase in tension regarding the Syrian situation, particularly by Turkey, as there were rockets supposedly fired from Syria by the Syrian army into Turkey, which killed 5 or 6 civilians, women and children. So the Turkish army then threatened to invade the northern part of Syria in retaliation if necessary. That, however, is not the major thing. The major thing is that the EU, according to various sources that we've picked up on the grapevine, is considering the introduction of even more stringent sanctions against Iran. Now, lest we forget, this comes hot on the heels of recent comments from the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, and those people do not mess around. The guy's name is General Mohammed Ali Jafari, who warned very recently, within the last 2 weeks, of major retaliation against the Gulf strategic Strait of Hormuz. Now, on this chart, we have, with the courtesy of the US Energy Information Administration, the IEA, put a chart that shows that the Strait of Hormuz is indeed a critical choke point in this regard. As you can see, it's here, by the way. It's the Strait of Hormuz. It's very narrow. I believe at its narrowest point is about 20 miles, so that is not a great space of water to disrupt. It accounts for the flow of around 20%, 20%, 1/5 of the world's oil supply. Now, Iran can cause a lot of trouble on that, which, as you can see, directly impacts on the US, on Brazil, India, China, South Korea and Japan, all massive oil importers, and their economies are based on that. Now, US bases and the Middle East and Israel are also threatened by Jafari's comments. He added that he believed Iran would abandon the nuclear non-proliferation treaty should it be targeted for military action. Our point, however, is that, attacked militarily or not, the West is narrowing down Iran's political options, not just with the existing sanctions, but with the widespread demonstrations that this is causing on the streets of Tehran. These have been evident in the past few days. We are no great supporters necessarily per se of Iran or indeed any other political faction, but the point is you can only push regimes so far. Now, before we get on to how far they can be pushed and what that means, the new European measures apparently may include a ban on financial transactions, with some exceptions for those involving humanitarian aid, food and medical purchases, and provisions for legitimate trade. It would also require European traders to apply to their governments for authorization prior to being able to finance any transactions in allowed goods. Previously, as you may remember, the EU's approach was to allow trade broadly while banning specific products. And trade will be hampered further, as is envisaged, by a new ban on Europeans extending short-term trade guarantees. I won't go into the rest of it, but what I will say is this: that Iran is not Iraq. That is number one. Iran has a fully functioning political apparatus. It has a fully functioning military apparatus, and Jafari went specifically out of his way to state that the Strait of Hormuz would be a legitimate target for Iran should it be attacked. This is what he said. This is a declared policy by Iran that if war occurs in the region and the Islamic Republic is involved, it is natural that the Strait of Hormuz, as well as the energy market, will face difficulties. He added that the US military bases, such as those, by the way, in Bahrain, Kuwait, and the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, would also be prime targets for Iranian retribution by missiles or by its proxy forces, terrorist groups like Hezbollah. Just in case anybody thought he was joking, he reiterated that the US has many vulnerabilities around Iran and its bases are within the range of the Guard's missiles. He also went on to say they have many other resources available. Now, in SGT's view, he is absolutely right in what he says, not qualitatively about different regimes and so forth, but about Iranian capabilities. The three options that they have, which they may use actually preemptively, the first would be to stop the flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz, obviously, and that would create huge problems for global economies. The second would be for Iran to cause massive destabilization in neighboring Iraq by utilizing its existing extensive network and allies and agents in the country, and also, of course, in neighboring Afghanistan and Pakistan, where Iran holds massive sway, as you well know. And finally, Iran could use Hezbollah, which, by the way, is unfortunately a far more sophisticated and effective outfit than Al-Qaeda, to reinitiate wider conflict with Israel and elsewhere against US and UK and generally Western targets. So on that rather depressing note, we will bid you adieu and good trading for the day. Cheerio.